For those who are watching on YouTube, I made a mistake and we don't have the complete video clips of everything. Otherwise, this podcast is available on SoundCloud and Spotify as well. I'm also actively encouraging feedback. Feel free to leave a comment or email me directly at shangwei@gmail.com. Enjoy the rest of the podcast. This podcast may contain subjects or topics that may be offensive or insensitive in nature. All subjects of coarse language and stories should be considered as banter, and therefore this podcast should not be listened to. If you hear something that you don't like, feel free to turn this podcast off and go about your day. This podcast may contain subjects or topics that may be offensive or insensitive in nature. All subjects of coarse language and stories should be considered as banter, and therefore this podcast should not be listened to. If you hear something that you don't like, feel free to turn this podcast off and go about your day.
Look at your headphones, and then those mics don't work anymore? Did he say that?
Yeah, oh yeah, 3 and 4. The last people, they were doing some interesting things.
Oh my god.
Table was greasy as fuck too.
Oh damn.
Yeah, that's the first thing I
There's a
noticed.
fucking party there.
Man, I'm saying, like, I might start bringing rum here. Whiskey. Don't tell my mother. Yeah, you can tell my mother. Yeah, I'm thinking of starting to record a disclaimer separately and then put that in as opposed to saying it every time.
Yeah, I think it's like a better idea. It's like Joe Rogan does in the beginning of his podcast.
Yeah, it ruins the flow of the conversations, what I realized.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, for me, it's like whatever. But like, hold on. I don't want, because it's metal on metal, I don't want you like scratching your mic. But, I mean, up to you. I think it's a good idea.
It's easier.
It's easier too. You don't have to say it all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to like have this on, and you don't have to like think of it. You just do it. Same thing with outros and anything. Like, that's usually why people have an intro and an outro.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just like, because it's there. You know, you just put it on there. You have the same clip always. And you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's all trial and error, bro.
Yeah, and like actually, I feel like it's even better that you do that because like when you start, it's not like you just start and it just automatic like you just see us. It's like some sort of like intro playing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
This is true, yeah.
Yeah, like you know how Joe Rogan has his little like funny icon?
And then he makes the
exactly.
music.
That's his intro, and that includes the disclaimer. So all he has to do is just talk. That's it. That's his job. So I feel like that's better too. It gives like flow too, because it's like, you know, you start from an intro, you exit, then you outro, whatever. Like link to your other podcast and whatever, like the other episodes and stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to my animator, see if he can make an animation for the intro.
Oh, one more thing. I think one day you should like find a good configuration and then just take a picture of it, because you said this is public, so people might be changing it up. The reason why is because you might have different audio qualities or audio things every episode. But I think it's best if you try staying consistent.
I can always adjust that in post editing. I was adjusting the sound volume in the last one because I think it was for me, it was too low. For you, like for me and Kev, it was too low. I put yours volume too high and the rest of us too low. Also, yeah, it's just things we edit. Yeah.
Like I watched a podcast. It was Lex Fridman. I don't know. Do you know Lex Fridman?
I do not.
He's amazing.
Is he a porn star?
No.
That's right.
He what's it called? He was on Joe Rogan one time, and then Joe Rogan, he's a good friend of Joe Rogan, and then Joe Rogan recommended him, like you should start a podcast. Started one. He's pretty successful now. He does more technical things. In fact, he's an AI researcher at MIT. But like he does more technical things, but he also talks a lot about like life and productivity and stuff. And he had Mr. Beast one time, right?
Oh, nice.
And Mr. Beast is like, dude, you don't even realize how much of a genius this guy is. Like this guy actually just gets it. He's really. So what he mentioned, Mr. Beast mentioned, is like, dude, if you're making videos and stuff, dude, just like, don't worry about it, man. Just do whatever you want to do. Get up to 100 videos, and literally, like, do a video. Next video, just improve one little thing. Oh, the audio is iffy. Okay, let me just change the audio. That's it. Don't worry about anything else. Just change the audio. Next video, audio's good now. Okay. Oh, this video has like, I don't like the lighting. Okay, I'll just fix it on the next video. You just do that, and you get to video 100. And then you're like, oh, wow, like you changed from day one. Like everything's different. And then on top of that, now that you're at 100 videos, you can now see which ones are doing good and which ones are doing bad. So you start to avoid or just fix up the ones that are doing bad.
Yeah.
So like you can't just do like 5 videos and then just assume that like, oh, I'm not doing good. It's like, dude, you gotta go to like the triple digits at least.
There's not enough sample data to go.
Yeah, exactly. You need more samples. That's all it is. You just get better after every single one.
But that's what everything
Even a
in
little
life.
bit. Yeah, it's everything exactly. Like you just get a little better than the previous like iteration, and that's it.
Yeah, like, for example, the gym. You
Yeah,
know,
I mean, dude.
when you first start, you're not gonna lift 2 plates. It's a progress. It
That
takes
depends how
time
much
to
you
get
weigh.
there.
Some guys are fucking beast, bro.
Fair enough. Majority of the population,
Yeah, I know what
Yeah.
you mean.
when starting off, are not going to be physically fit, right?
Yeah.
And over time and repetition and consistency, you get better every time.
Yeah, even if it's like 1 pound better, after 100 days, it's 100 more pounds.
That's a
That's
lot.
insane. So yeah,
It becomes compound interest. I believe that's the
yeah.
term.
I think Einstein said like compound interest is like the 6th world wonder, or
Yeah.
something like that.
The 7th is Shaq's penis.
Did you start it?
We started already, bro.
We did.
I'm gonna record that later after all of this, and I'm just gonna put it in the front. I already decided.
All right.
Yeah,
so
I'm very easygoing, man. Like the things
I didn't
that
even know we were. I didn't even know we were rolling.
That's the beauty of it, right? You see what I mean? Like if I started off like that, it kind of ruins the flow,
I see what you mean. Then. Yeah, that does make sense.
right?
I didn't even know you were rolling.
As opposed to us just like recording, like even the conversation you had before this, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
I would take that verbatim, just put it right in.
Yeah, I see what you mean by the disclaimer.
Yeah, but then when you have
That
to
makes sense.
repeat yourself, it becomes weird. Like, okay, I just said this. It's like he's not listening, but it's not like he is listening.
Yeah,
It's just
acts
he's
like
not recording.
acts like something like interruption. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That makes sense then. Okay.
Yeah, it's like when you're running really. It's like when you're in a runner's high, and then you stop all of a sudden. That destroys your flow.
Yeah. You stop. The snowball just kind of crashed, and then you got to re-roll it again. That does make sense.
Exactly. What's the saying? A year's worth of discipline can be destroyed within a week's worth of fucking around. Something along the term of that.
I haven't heard of it, but that does make sense.
Yeah, that's something that's what I've learned. I learned that the hard way, right?
Most people do, really.
Yeah. Before, when I was doing real estate, I was waking up before 30 every day, going to bed at 8 p.m. every day. I had that level of routine and discipline. I liked it. Now it's hard for me to get back to that, right? I'm going to bed at 12 o'clock, waking up at 8 o'clock. And it's not consistent anymore. I don't feel right because of that inconsistency. But as of right now, I'm slowly building my way back up, right? I'm learning to when am I pushing my body too much. Like, for example, yesterday I went to bed at fucking 10 and woke up at 6. I went for a run. I worked out 3 times that day.
Jeez.
It's pretty nice. Right, but then the day after, I'm pretty much shot.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, like I don't realize this, my body's pretty much physically exhausted. So I gotta figure out how to do it to put in those workouts, but not to the point where I'm overexerting myself.
Yeah. I mean, overexertion is it's not only it doesn't just stop in fitness. Like, I mean, that just goes to burnout. Like that's
Exactly.
the whole topic of burnout. That's literally, I would argue, my worst like thing in the past even 10 years. Like, I always have burnout. I always want to do everything in the world. I always want to do everything. Like, it's because once I get into the flow, I don't want to get out.
Yeah.
I don't. It doesn't really matter what it is. It's kind of like you get like a high. Like you're in the gym, you end up falling in love with it so much that like you just don't want to leave it. You could be there for 5 hours and you will still want to work out. The problem with that is you won't be able to work out in the next 3 days. You know what I mean? Or God forbid you having an injury. That's literally how you start getting injuries.
Yeah.
So like overtraining, and then you just keep forcing it, keep going heavier. I mean, that's how I hurt my hip like last year. Yeah, around that time I've been like really being like strenuous to the point where it's like if I missed one warm up or I didn't warm up long enough, I would just get injured, which is what happened to my hip. Like during a squat, just like kind of popped because I didn't, I didn't warm up that day, and I mean thank God that happened on the warm up. Okay, I say warm up. Sorry, when I say warm up, I mean like stretching and stuff.
Okay.
When I say warm up in terms of squats, I mean just like working up to the weight.
You skip the initial part to get there.
I skipped the actual like stretching I usually do and stuff, and this time I just went straight to heavy squats. And then
Let me ask something. I'm still trying to figure out the idea of burnout, right? It's for me, I realize it's one of 2 things for me. It's either my ego kicking in or me being impatient. What do you think it is for you?
Burnout for me. Okay, well, okay. Let me just. How about let's guide it. Let's guide through like let's make like a path of like what it is so we could define it. So like
Defining burn.
yeah, yeah,
Defining
because
burnout.
like I kind of it's kind of hard for me to like give one word for it. So
Okay.
like let's start with like for me, what do I call burnout? For me, burnout is like I work on a project for 8 hours in a
Mhm.
row, and then I stop. Okay, so the feeling that I have for that is that I basically take the meaning of treat this day as your last to the extreme.
Okay.
Yeah, so what I mean by that is like I have a huge list of things I need to get done for this project. I want to like for me, I treat that list. I don't look at the deadlines. I treat that list as I'm doing it now.
Mhm.
That's my issue. So I kind of like pretend that tomorrow I'm not doing this. Like tomorrow I'm on to doing something else. I kind of treat it like that, where it's like, oh no, tomorrow I'll be dead. So I gotta finish this today. Like that's literally the mentality I have, which is good to some extent, right? Like it's good when you learn where to stop. Because if you just treat like you need to get this done,
Mhm.
then you're gonna end up getting a lot of things done. Now, how good those things are gonna be done is a whole nother story. But when you just need to get them done, with me, I have like let's just say 50 things. Like I want to get them all done today, which is most of the time not realistic. And
No, it's
I
not.
still end up not getting most things done. In fact, sometimes I even like stay up to like really late at night just to get these things done. But it's not like, oh, tomorrow was my deadline. Like no, it was like this thing is like I set myself the deadline on this thing for like next week. I just wanted to get it done so I could get onto something new. For me, I think it's me chasing new things. I always want to do new things. So when I put something on the to-do list for a while
Mhm.
and then I start attacking it, I want to complete everything because I've been seeing these things for too long. I want to do new things. I noticed that too with me. I'm learning languages. I'm specifically programming languages. I tend to hop in between. Like I have like a select few that I'm really good at because I've like worked with them for a while. But I notice I hop in between all of them because I want to learn this thing. I want to learn that thing. I want to learn this thing. I want to learn this thing. So it's kind of like me being very shallow in many regions. Um, I don't know. I think that's what it is. Like I think that's what the root is. I always want to do new things. I always want to jump between new things. I always want to do new things.
Perhaps that's a short attention span,
It does seem like it. It does.
right?
It does seem like that.
Given our age range, given our generation, how social media is structured as of right now, most young people have a very short attention span.
Yeah, I do think so. I mean, I used to like confuse attention span with focus, which they're two different things. Like I think I could really focus. Like I can switch on focus in 2 seconds. I think that's like one of my best traits.
There's a correlation, but there's no causation.
Yeah, I don't even know if there is like if you have bad focus, you have bad attention. Like I don't even know if they're even like related.
If you have a bad attention span, you're gonna have shitty focus. But if you have good focus, it does not
Yeah,
mean you have bad attention span.
but that's weird because like I feel like I have a bad attention span, but I have good focus. That's what's interesting.
Yeah.
That's what I feel like because here's the thing, like with me, I always want to jump between these things, right? But once I jump into one thing,
Mhm.
oh man, like I'm focused like for 8 hours if I have to. Now, if we're talking focus as in like a long period of time, like in terms of days or weeks, then yeah, I don't have that. But I don't think that's focus. I think focus is getting into the flow state and getting out of it. I think that's the way I see
Yes,
focus.
I agree.
Yeah, so I think I can really get in the flow state in 2 seconds. Like I literally just switch it. For me, it's very easy.
Mhm.
A lot of people need to do like a routine to get in, like whatever the case is, or they easily get out of it when they hear like a noise, like people get distracted easily. For me, I don't. Like for me, I mean, people know me for falling asleep in any condition possible.
Okay.
Like I can fall asleep on the floor in the cold, no blanket, really loud outside. I can fall asleep with that. I think the reason why is because I live near a hospital, so I have to kind of
Yeah,
sleep through
you got used
ambulances.
to that.
Like today, there's like a lot of sidewalk repairs literally happening right outside my house,
Mhm.
right? And then like I wake up, right, and then I'm like completely fine. I wake up on my normal time.
That's a very
But
New
then my
York
mom's
thing
just
too.
like how are you sleeping? Like I have to wake up at like 6 a.m. because these guys are so loud. So yeah, I could. My focus goes to sleeping too.
That's interesting, but your focus is not the norm. For example, my focus is completely different. For me,
Mhm.
I can focus in short bursts
Okay.
because I understand that my attention span is not the most ideal.
Mhm.
I'm constantly working on that, and a big factor of this is definitely social media. This is one point when I was very addicted to video games, and then that
Who
eventually,
isn't? These
yeah, that's
days.
true. And then translate to social media, mostly YouTube and TikTok.
Yeah, I
Where-
definitely. I mean,
When when
these
you fall into the
platforms.
rabbit hole of, okay, I want this dopamine hit, and then you go on to the next dopamine hit. It's enough to get you intrigued, but not enough to make you feel good. If
Yeah,
that makes sense.
I agree. I
Yeah.
mean, in my case, it's kind of weird because it's like I do all these different things, and it seems like you're being productive because you're learning a lot of new things. You know, you're programming, you're working on things, you're working on projects and stuff. But it's like you're being unproductive in a productive environment, if that
Yeah,
makes
I know what
sense.
you mean. It's illusion of productivity.
Yeah.
You think you're doing actual work. It appears to be that you're productive, but in reality, if you actually look at it objectively, you didn't do jack shit for the past
Yeah,
5 hours.
I would actually argue that might even be worse than straight up being unproductive. Like I think that
When you say unproductive,
okay, when I say unproductive, I mean like I think doing that is might actually be worse than being like addicted to video games. Because the thing is like that gives you the illusion that you're being productive. So you don't have an incentive to switch. But like when you're just, only playing video games or you're only watching like YouTube videos, like you know what you're doing. You know
Mhm.
that it's not productive. Like you can't justify. I mean, some people somehow could, but like for me at least personally, like I can't justify that me watching YouTube is productive unless it's like lectures or whatever, right? I mean YouTube as in like watching like
And the
I don't know, you
entertainment
know what I
part.
mean?
I know
Entertainment. There
what
you
you
go.
mean.
Yeah, yeah. Like when I only indulge in entertainment all day, I kind of can't justify that as productive.
Hmm.
But if I'm just like bouncing between learning 20 different foreign languages, I'm not gonna get deep in any of them. But like you're learning a language technically, right? So you kind of could justify yourself that you're being productive, even though you're not. So you have an excuse there, is what I'm trying to say.
That's a great analogy.
I
Yeah.
think you actually have an excuse when you're being productively unproductive, right? Like I feel like you have an excuse there because like is of the first word, the productive word.
Mhm.
Like the other one is like you're just being unproductive. You can't even have an excuse for it. Like yeah, you know.
Yeah. And then you realize the day after everything you learned today, well, today is pretty much went out the window.
Yeah, I mean like don't get me wrong. There's probably some like similarities. Like if you're learning Spanish, French, and English at the same
Mhm.
time, yeah, like they're all Latin roots. You probably learned a few things. But like you'll only like learn the words they all have in common because you iterated those,
Yeah. And
right?
also, if you're not going to apply them, you're going to forget them.
Yeah, you're not gonna speak French and Spanish at the same time.
No.
I mean, majority won't. Some maybe, some people might, but like,
And
that's the case.
honestly, that's my view on college and school in general.
That's actually good. It's good that you bring that up.
I, I,
I do agree with that.
I
Actually,
think school programs you to think that way.
yeah, no, I do see that because
Yeah, most conversations I have people who are like graduates, they tell me, the next month I forgot everything I learned in college.
you take a lot of classes that you're not going to use a lot of things. Okay, so basically, this is the way I see it. You're taking a class in a field. You're taking math class. You're taking computer science class, English, whatever, right? There's so many like math isn't math. There's so many different things in math. Like you have differential calculus. You can even go to the physics side of math. You have theoretical math, whatever. You have so much different math, right? Like when you're doing one question from every field, how do you expect to master anything? Like when it comes to, I mean, think about it this way, right? Let's say you're getting a PhD. You're not, I don't know. Maybe I'm just like ignorant to this, but most like people that I've seen, like PhDs and things that I've seen, they don't have a PhD in mathematics. They have a certain, that's why you have a research paper. You
Yeah.
have a certain field
It's
inside of
very
that
technical.
that you're very, very into. So like, let's just say you're getting a PhD in computer science, right? It's usually like a research paper. Like at the end, you're going to have a research paper, and it would be like a research paper in artificial intelligence and self-driving vehicles. Like that is very specific. But when
Very
you
niche.
only work on that, you're doing everything, you're learning everything for that specific reason. There, you master it because you're focused on one little thing, right? So like the way I see it is maybe like undergrad is like this huge, like it's the like you're learning everything in the shallow end. So you could select which one you want to go down. Then you take a master's. The master's is in that field, and then the PhD is what inside of that field. That's the way I see it. But
I see it more vague than that. It becomes a question of would you rather be a jack of all trades or the master of one? Is it better to be proficient in multiple skill set? Well, is it better to be knowledgeable in multiple skill sets or to be super proficient and niche in one skill set?
I think both. I think being a master of one but none others, I really think is I would rather be a jack of all trades at that point. I mean, that's me personally. There's no right or wrong here. I think it depends on the person.
Have you heard the whole saying? Jack of all
I always
trades.
forget the whole saying.
The jack of all trades. Wait, no.
Jack of all trades is a master of none.
Master of none, but still better than a master of one.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I definitely agree with that. Like,
Right.
I already like agreed with the first quote, like the
Mhm.
first half that everyone talks about. But like once you add that, I agree with it even more.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's important that you are a master at something at least, but I also think it's important that you do branch out a bit.
I mean, if you look at it like you're surviving in life, right? At bare minimum, you should know how to cook for yourself. You should know how to budget intelligently. You should know how to communicate your feelings and set your boundaries. You should know how to deal with your own traumas, right? Those 4 things, I believe, are the baseline skills that everybody should have. No one takes the time to learn that. But within those 4 skills, there's obviously more niche topics you can go into, right? I'm not saying you should be a 3-star Michelin star chef,
Yeah.
but you should at least know how to cook for yourself,
Yeah.
right?
I think it's important to understand at least the basics of most things, but not at the expense of not mastering anything.
Yeah.
So, like, of course, master something, but also have a basic understanding of most things. I find this funny because, like, this is what my dad's known for. Like, almost everyone that's interacting with my dad, like, they always say that he's like, he knows everything. He just doesn't know nothing. He always knows everything. Like you ask him any question about anything, and he will somehow find an answer to it.
Mm-hmm.
That's because you're asking him very basic questions.
Yeah.
Like, it would be things like, oh, he knows how to fix everything. It's like, yeah, but like, he could fix your door, he could fix your window, right? Carpentry.
Genuinely,
like,
most people.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, he does work in construction, but it's like, he started off working in a general contractor, and they have you doing everything, but they only have you doing the basics of everything.
Yeah.
When you compare a general contract, like a regular construction worker that works in the general field, to a carpenter that's been working for 30 years, you'll notice that their skill sets are way different.
Of course.
They could finish the job. They could both probably finish the job, right?
Mm-hmm.
But one finishes it like 5 times faster because he's a master at it, right? So I feel like it's important to at least master something rather than just constantly, being the basics of everything.
It depends. I'm glad you brought up construction because that's where I came from. I came from ironwork, right?
Yeah.
I was working as ironworker's apprentice under a GC company that also manufactures steel, right? So we did pretty much everything. I had pretty much plumbing, carpentry, concrete. I fucking hate electrical. I could never understand that for the life of me because of college. Besides the point, like we had understanding of every single frame of like what's the word? It's not frame. Every single trade, right? But we really stuck with our niche was steel.
Yeah,
like you cannot beat us in the steel game, right? I remember we had this project where a pipe was vibrating so much, the support beam started getting off the ground.
Oh my god!
Right. So what we did was, I didn't realize it was called a vibration isolator. That's what it was called. To us it was very intuitive. We just took 2 springs, welded it on 2 angles, and just put it against the pipe. So that when the pipe vibrates, it vibrates on the spring and not the beam.
Yeah.
Right. And then I was talking to the inspector about it. He's like, oh yeah, like that's a vibration isolator. Right. And to us it was just intuitive, right? We didn't have names like, yeah, it's just the only way for the energy to go away. Right. But if you give it to a carpenter, you have no fucking clue. Right. You give it to any other GC company, no clue. So I believe you should be the jack of all trades, but you should find the mastery in the trade that you like the most.
Yeah, I mean that's how you like distinguish yourself too.
Exactly.
It's like when you want to just like have somebody, I don't know, paint your walls. Like you can have a lot of people just paint
anybody
your wall.
can do that.
Yeah, but like now let's say
if you want someone to paint a mural, that's a different story.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. So, it's important that you do the basics things because also you don't need to go to somebody all the time. That's like the next path. That's like the path to self-sufficiency too. It's like pretty important that you understand at least the basics so you don't need to like rely on other people to like, do the most basic things for you. Like you don't need to like oh, let's just say your finances are not doing too well. It's like, it doesn't hurt to learn how to cook. You will save money on that. You know what I mean? So I feel like being a little more self-sufficient is definitely important.
It's also the thing with self-sufficiency, you will, I think, goes to the idea of having knowledge. The idea that knowledge is power.
Yeah.
Right. So let's say you want to hire hire a subcontractor to do your concrete work, right? The guy charges you $200K for something that you know isn't worth more than $50K.
Yeah.
You'd be pissed off. You should be pissed off enough. We're like, okay, fuck you. I'm gonna do this myself.
Yeah.
If it's worth your time.
Yeah, of course.
Right. If it's not worth your time, sub it out. Right. But if it's worth your time, do it. And you avoid being scammed. You avoid being played by other people by having knowledge.
Yeah.
Right. And I believe we spoke about this in the previous podcast, that education and knowledge are not the same thing. They're two separate things.
Yeah, I do agree. I mean,
let me rephrase that. Knowledge cannot only be obtained through education systems.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's the word system that separates it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, I think that's a difference.
I think that's where I phrased it wrong.
Yeah, like education versus education system. Like those are two different things.
Yeah,
right? Completely different things.
Especially in established institutions. Yeah. Because the thing is, they're privately funded. They're not made. They don't have any incentive for you to be successful. They have incentive for you to continuously come back to give them your money.
Yeah, I mean, some have an incentive to make you successful so you can bring back money to them.
At the end of the day, it's a business.
It is a business. Like a private school is a business. It's like it most likely wouldn't be there if they weren't making money.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's the point of them, right? It's not like I highly doubt that all the money that they make is just thrown to the teachers and stuff, and whoever owns it has nothing. Like I'm pretty sure the private businesses, they are considered private businesses because they are. They work for profit. So they do things that actually incentivize them. At least is the way I believe it works. But they, it's just simple incentives. Like they just work on incentives, right? Like if there's an incentive to help you be successful, that incentive would only exist because it makes them money.
Now, let me ask you something.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, let me make a story. I've realized that a lot of mentors that I've dealt with in my experience, if they don't have any incentives to help you, they won't.
What do you mean by that?
We live in a world where everybody is extremely selfish with information. We're extremely selfish with these things that can develop the society as a whole.
I do agree. I feel like they're mostly selfish with the things that can provide them the benefit. So like when there's something, so like let's just say I'm your mentor and like I'm helping you with something, but if I tell you too much, you might make more money than me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I have to keep it to myself so I can make more money. Like I feel like there are mentors out there that do that. I really just think that like there are a lot of mentors that just are on the good side and the bad side. You know what I mean? Like gatekeeping information does exist.
Oh
gatekeeping knowledge exists.
It's a lot.
Yeah, that does exist.
Especially in the real estate industry.
Yeah, the crazy part about that is like you don't know that it's being gatekept.
You don't know what you don't know.
Because once you hear about it, you'll know about it. So, that's the crazy part. So it's like you really don't know like what you don't know,
But that's the weird thing though, right? It's the question goes back to the abundance mindset versus the scarcity mindset. Right? The scarcity mindset is the idea of there's not enough to go around, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's only a finite amount of money, finite amount of information that's not enough to go, and there's only a certain amount of people that can have all of it.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to the abundance mindset where there's like too much, right? There's so much money in circulation, so much information circulation, and it doesn't matter like if I give you this extra piece of information. And the thing is, when you learn about the information, it's usually like something very simple, but very niche,
mm-hmm.
right? Like it's just a trick that they figured out. And once they figure out that trick, it will propel you a lot further.
Yeah. I mean, I also think that there's a lot of cases where it's a very personal thing, where it's like, well, it might work for me, it might not work for you.
Yes.
But I mean, there are a lot of things where it's like, that using that trick is going to be better than you not doing anything,
Mm-hmm.
There's also another thing where it's like, I noticed this in my, like when I tutor a lot of people, there's a lot of things that I don't tell them because I don't even know that it helps them.
Okay.
Like I would just be talking about like I would just have like after I'm finished tutoring them, like I would just have a conversation with them, and I just so happen to like I would mention how I like use a lot of the people I tutor are from classes that I did take at some point, and at the end of that I would just like just have like a small talk, and then I would just quickly bring up how I approach this thing, and they're like, oh wow, like why don't we just do that? I was just like, oh yeah, you're right, like that. Like I don't know, I just didn't expect that to like actually be the epiphany that they would have. I expected like me teaching them just the way that they were supposed to learn. Supposed to is like a weird way of saying it because there's so many ways you can learn it. But like, yeah, there's a lot of things where it's like you don't even know how much help what you say would do to somebody. Okay, let me phrase that better. Like there's a lot of things that like that are very subconscious to you or just like second nature to you that you don't even like realize will be helpful to somebody that if you tell them that.
But you do not take the time to gatekeep that information from that person.
Yeah, I mean, I never really had that thought of like, if anything, like I feel like I would be the person who would get screwed over for saying too much. Not in the sense that like I talk too much, but in the sense that like I like literally I'm super what's the word?
Abundant with information.
I'm super liberal with the information that I have. I give it away because it's like, when I say give it away, it's kind of like a copy. It's like I'm not like literally taking it out of my brain and giving it to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I always love expanding it. Also, me giving it away also improves my own understanding of this. So, like, maybe I was never put in a situation where like giving away information is like a crazy big deal. Like I don't really know. Like me personally, I've never been in a situation where I kind of had to like gatekeep information or something.
From my experience, people who do gatekeep information, they usually gatekeep the most information that doesn't really matter. Not that it doesn't matter, but it's not detriment. For example,
I know what you mean.
For example, real estate, right? There's a thing called open listings.
Okay.
Right? Open listings is listings that every agent has access to. Right? Meaning it's public information, pretty much everybody knows about this. Right? I have moments where agents would gatekeep information like that.
That's weird.
Right? Now, let me give you some pretense so you know the way the New York City agents are. Someone was asking me about how real estate agents are in New York City. So this is directly to you. Shout out to you, Arian. So in New York City, there's a lot of agents, right? There's like 80,000 agents within the island of Manhattan. Right? And you've heard of the 20/80 rule, correct?
Yeah, of course. I follow that.
So in New York City, it's 1090 for real estate agents. I would even say it's 595 at this point.
Hold on, wait. What are we applying? Wait, what are we referring to?
10% of agents close 90% of deals.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean. Yeah.
And then the rest 90%, they fight for the 10% of scraps.
Interesting.
That's what I've noticed in New York City. Because New York City is extremely competitive.
Right.
There are times where I get an open listing, which is a public listing available to everybody.
Yeah.
Agents and general public, where it's gone within the day. Right. So there's some incentive to hold it back from other agents, right? But when you're within the same company, it becomes weird.
Yeah, I
like
see what you
even
mean.
though technically we're fighting, we're within the same team, right? It really destroys the idea of a company should work together as a team, or the idea of we can all benefit from each other.
Yeah, I definitely see that.
So the way I work, right? I'm very open with people. That's my biggest weakness. Sometimes I'm too honest and too trustworthy of people. And I've been stabbed in the back multiple times because of that.
Yep.
Because unfortunately, people aren't reciprocant of that. Not everybody in this world is trustworthy and honest, right?
Yeah.
And it could go to the idea of human nature, where people are naturally just selfish in general, self-serving in general, right? But that's besides the point. The way I approach things is I always like approaching people to do business together, right? Because my understanding of business is very simple, right? Let's say you and I, right? We're both real estate agents, both doing the exact same thing, right? The only main difference is that our level of experience,
the way we look, and like the superficial shit,
Yeah.
obviously, and our network, right?
Yeah.
But let's say our network is nothing, right? Our life experience is about the same. Why not just work together?
I mean, even if the network's not nothing, like I still think that it would still be helpful.
It definitely adds. It's a factor, but I'm saying let's say the network's
yeah.
arbitrary,
Yeah.
right? It's not super impactful,
Yeah.
right? Why not just work together? We're doing the same exact shit, right?
Yeah.
Like 80% of what I do is the same thing as what you do. So why not work together and cut our work in half? As opposed to like having like we're already competing with other companies, other agents outside of our company. So why not just work together? We get more shit done,
Yeah.
right? And people don't. Perhaps it's a New York mindset. I'm still trying to figure this part out. But people are so egotistic, like, oh, I have to do everything myself, right? That I am king, or I am God, or I am whatever. And if I don't do everything myself, it's bad on me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I do think I even faced that. I think I faced that thought process as well at some point. Like, I feel like that's what led me to like realizing that I can't do everything by myself.
Mm-hmm.
But like, it's not like I just randomly sat down and just thought about that. It's kind of like it gets to the point where you really do get overwhelmed with all the stuff that's thrown at you. And then because of that, then you realize like, okay, like maybe I'm going crazy. Like maybe I actually can't do everything on my own. Like I mean, listen, like this podcast is gonna sound like we're like just bashing the education system, which we are, but
I definitely am.
yeah, but we didn't, but it's like if you think about it, like in classes, you're on your own most of the time. Like don't get me wrong, there are group projects and there are like teamwork projects, but like how often are they there, Like maybe it's just everyone wants to do things on their own because that's kind of like how they were all their life.
It's how it's structured.
Yeah.
I can see what you mean. I never had that experience. I would always approach people for like group studies.
Yeah, I mean with me, okay, so like for me, I've always been introverted when I was younger to like even like just the last few years. Like I've been more extroverted lately,
Mm-hmm.
but I would always approach people that I knew. I'd always approach people that I'm already friends with, that type of stuff.
Okay.
So I would.
Fair enough.
So it was kind of like, it was like that. That was for me. But obviously, as I got more extroverted, then
You wouldn't just like talk to the guy right next to you,
Yeah.
see what's up with him.
yeah,
And
like
just
I
work
would,
together.
exactly. Like now I wouldn't mind just working with anybody, that type of stuff. But like,
I think it depends. Like I would the way I approach things is that if I see you like doing stuff, I'll approach you like, okay, let's work together. Let's cut the time.
yeah,
I mean, the main reason why I did that was because I procrastinate a lot. So,
Mhm.
so in my mind, I feel like, okay, I already wasted the past 3 days that I had for this assignment for doing fuck all, right? How am I going to maximize my time, right? If I study all this topic, it's going to take me at least 8 hours. I only have 4. So let me see, like, who's been on top of their grind? This guy. Hey, man, you want to work together? I have, like, this couple, and usually I get good responses.
yeah. I have had those experiences in college with a lot of
Mm.
the classes that I took. It was there was one class where it would be like I would show up one day and then my friend wouldn't, and then the next day he would show up and I wouldn't.
Straight notes.
Yeah, and and actually it wasn't even for that. It was simply just to know when the exam was, because he only addresses it in like the class,
Mhm.
and he doesn't record any lectures. So, and I'm not gonna rely on like the group chat because like most people don't respond to that anyways.
Yeah.
So it was just like that. It was like one guy goes, one guy doesn't, one guy goes, doesn't. It was just like that. We did that at some point. Then we went online, so then it was like whatever, it doesn't matter. But I mean, we had those type of group things. My favorite thing, it's pretty stupid in my opinion, but my favorite thing in all of college that I took was my capstone course. It's
Okay.
the last course you take, and you have to pretty much make a product. It doesn't have to be like, like an actual, fully fledged application, right? You're not gonna finish that in one semester in a team of 4. Maybe you will, but who knows? So, but it's like a product. Like you actually work as a team to create something that people can interact with, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was my favorite thing. The only thing you get graded on are the progress reports you have to give every week, which is what you get in the normal work field, right? You have to obviously report in like your changes and stuff. You get graded on your progress reports, you get graded on your presentations of your product, and you get graded on your actual product. That's it. That's the whole class from beginning to end. We were working on the same project. I loved it. Like, I loved it because it's like I'm actually doing something, you know? And I also worked in a team. So, like, we were actually able to dissect who works on what because one guy can't do it all in one semester. So we dissect, like, what each guy does. And we ended up working on it, combining together, encountered problems, dealt with it together. That was my favorite class. That was the last class that you take, and that's it. There's no other class like this. Every other class is just like, we're going to teach you this topic. You're going to learn it. You know, if you actually remember it, I don't care. You're just going to have to pass this class or not. And that's it. But, like, that project, it's like, it's cool because it does so much for you. You learn on your own, which in this field, you know, you kind of have to a lot of the time.
Oh, most fields.
Yeah, I mean, you have to do your own, like, due diligence. Like, you have to do your own reading, your own, you know, studying and stuff. So in there, it's like you encounter problems. Okay, I don't understand this thing. Okay, so you actually have to constantly learn. So I learned a lot from working on that project. That's 1. 2, I have a project in my portfolio now. 3, I worked in a team, so that's pretty cool. Like, that was fun as well. There's just only benefits to this. Like, really, I don't see any negatives. Like, if every class was like this for the 4 years, I'm telling you right now, I'm convinced that everyone that leaves that with a degree is going to be 5 times better than how they leave right now. Like, no questions asked.
Teaches how to be collaborative, teamwork skills.
Yeah, because it gives you skin in the game. Like, literally, that's all it does. It puts you in the field. Like, it literally, like, most people from that, at least that I have experience with, like, are studying computer science to be a software engineer. So if you're going to do the things that a software engineer does, it's natural that you'll get better as a software engineer, as opposed to, like, just because you pass all your classes, that just means you're a good computer science student. That might not mean that you're a good software engineer.
No.
There are 2 different things. But when school, like, actually gives you things that a software engineer would do, it's natural that you'll get better as a software engineer. It's funny, too, because you know who's the people who teach that class? Well, teach, but you know what I mean? The people who guide that class, basically teachers. None of them are professors. All of them were people, and because the professors aren't people. All of them were people that are in the field. Like, I'm not going to say professors are in the field. Like, a lot of them might be. From my experience, most of them are just, you know, working in school. But these people were teaching the class from their office in their job.
That's awesome, actually.
They are literally, like, working. They're just giving you this capstone project on the side. Like, they're just, you know, this school just hired them to put you in that. But, like, people in the, like, actual software engineers in the field were giving you this. Is that not how we're supposed to learn? I feel like that's the proper way to learn.
That is the proper way.
That was my favorite thing. And this is, like, the only class that I actually feel like I've had some kind of connection to the teacher. You know what I mean? Because it's like you guys are both having the same struggles. You know, he went through the same struggles. A lot of software engineers go through the struggle of, like, trying to find work. It takes a long time. Like, you know, he went through the struggle. You guys have some kind of bond between the teacher for that as well.
You have the unspoken level of respect.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like I feel like that's the proper way. I mean, he was basically our mentor. Like, I feel like that's the proper way to actually get better, at least in this field. But I feel like most fields require, like, you know, skin in the game. You actually, you know, doing things.
You have to have something to lose. If you have no skin in the game, what's the point of doing anything?
Yeah, I think that's what's important. You know, I mean, you know, this goes back to, like, the conversation of theory versus practicality. Like, you do need some theory, but at the same time, you need a lot of practicality. School is just a lot of theory, from my experience. There are a lot of schools that actually do practical stuff. I know there's some schools that do, like, co-op programs where, like, instead of classes, you straight up have internships. Like,
really?
Yeah,
that's fun.
There are schools like that, and I don't mean trade schools. I mean, like
proper universities.
Yeah, like for computer science.
Okay.
Like, schools, like, there are schools out there. You just have to do your research and actually find them. Yeah. So,
I think it also depends, like, because you are in a situation where your mentor was someone who was in your position who actually cares about your growth.
Yeah.
He actually will help. Want to help you grow.
I might want to get closer to the mic because I don't.
Can't hear me?
Yeah, I can't hear you now. Okay, there you go.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Can I get a? Oh yeah. Yeah, but I think it goes back to, like, if people actually care about you, right? For example, when I was in real estate, all the mentors I had, frankly, never cared about me. I've come to the realization of this after I got out of the game. Hence why I'm not going back in the game. Because every single mentor I had only cared about how much money I can produce for them. So it becomes to the point where, like, I would have calls, like, a mentor would call me just to ask me if I closed any deals yet. Like really, like that's all you call me for?
Damn.
Just to see like if you're producing, like that's like me calling you like, hey man, are you making any money for me? That's exactly what it means, right? But I'm like, okay, the shit you've taught me isn't anything new. If anything, I'm a part of your team, and I'm teaching your like people on at my team more than you are. They all come to me for information as opposed to you. And at the time, I didn't realize because I'm in the game. I'm still working. And I'm extremely collaborative. I wouldn't like if you ask me a question. I'm not gonna be a dickhead and be like, oh no, don't waste my time, right? I'm like, okay, look, I understand. Like I was in your position not too long ago, and I respect the fact that you're hustling and asking questions. That's what I did, right? If just like one person who like properly took the time to like help me like work with me, like actually like in the field working with me, as opposed to just telling me what to do, I think I'll 100% be in the game more.
Mm-hmm.
But now the pathway I'm choosing, I realize I don't want to live a life based on other people's agenda.
Yeah.
Even if I die, I think it's a wealthy cause to die pursuing my own achievements. No,
Yeah.
no, that's not the right terminology. Die pursuing a life that I want.
I mean, yeah.
My friend told me yesterday. The way he said it really struck to me. He's like, yeah, even if I am joining the military, like the path, the way I'm thinking, like I'm choosing to do something that I want, that I would like sacrifice my life for.
Yeah.
Right, as opposed to living a life where I'm just constantly living by other people's agenda. That's a miserable life.
Yeah.
If you spend your entire life just listening to, no offense to your parents, like listening to what your parents say, your teachers say, your boss says, and never listening to your own intuition and your own gut feeling, what's the point? Right?
Yeah, because at that point, it's like you're just kind of like a puppet. That's really all it is.
You are a puppet.
Yeah, like that's, if you're not doing things that you want to do, then.
You can't blame anyone else. From when you're 18, okay, from 0 to 18, you can blame your parents, right?
Yeah.
But once you hit 28, you can't blame anybody but yourself.
Yeah.
Because at that point, you have to take accountability for your own life. Like, I've seen people in the later years of life, all they do is blame other people. A, that's not sexy. And B, where's the accountability, right? You see them, they have problems, and when you tell them, like, look, this is a big problem that you have, right? And then their first reaction isn't like to resolve the problem. The first reaction is to blame others, point the finger, which is very easy to do.
Yeah.
Like, we're all at fault for doing that at one point in our lives, right? There are times where I blame the finger as a first initial reaction. But now I realize, okay, so maybe sometimes I'm the problem, right? For example, if you're constantly in toxic relationships, right, you never find a proper man or woman in your life. Maybe it's not them. Maybe it's you. Maybe you're attracting toxic people in your life.
Yeah.
And that's usually the case. But it's for someone to realize that, it takes a lot of self-reflection. You have to look at your ego. You have to separate yourself from your ego. You are not your ego. You are not your feelings. You are a separate entity. It's very hard for someone to look at themselves very objectively.
Yeah. I do agree with that. Like with me, one thing that got me to taking more accountability was I don't know if you know who Jocko Willink is.
That sounds like a tasty food.
No, he has a book. He has a book. I forgot what it was called. Oh, Extreme Ownership. Yeah, that's his book. So after reading that book, it literally just talks about like you just taking ownership over your life.
Is he the Navy SEAL person?
Yes.
Older white gentleman.
Yes.
He jumps in the pool every day at like 5 a.m. I
I think
think.
so. Yeah. We're talking about the same guy though.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he made a book, Extreme Ownership, and talked about taking ownership of your life. And what I loved about it is he had this one thing that he said, or maybe a culmination of things that I just got an epiphany of. It was basically if you just take responsibility for everything that happens around you, even if it isn't your fault, you'll always be in control. And since you'll always be in control, you never have anyone to blame. That's one thing. But that's like the small thing. You always being in control now allows you to, you being in control is a big thing.
Yeah.
Like if you can control everything around you, like that's really good. So the only way you can get that control is by taking accountability of everything around you. Like I said, even if it has nothing to do with you, like you can have like, it could be a very small things like, oh, that person tripped on the other side. I should have been there to help him. Like,
This is true.
yeah, it's like, you know, how are you going to blame yourself for that, right? But when you think that way, it's like you start being aware of much more things and you actually start to make less mistakes. And also, you take accountability for everything. So you also become more responsible, more mature. You know, like things like, oh, you know, I was late because of the train. It's like, okay, I should have just left early. Just left earlier. You know what I mean? Like, it's small things like that that if you just take ownership of everything that goes on around you, literally you have nothing to blame because you're going to improve from that anyways. And also the reason why I love that book so much is it helps a lot with leadership too. Now think about it. Like, would you rather be led by somebody who takes accountability of everything, even if you fuck up, he says it's his fault? That makes your life easier for you, right?
Yeah.
Like, would you not rather be like that? Would you rather be with somebody like that, or would you rather be with a leader that fucks up a lot and says it's your fault? You know? I mean, of course, like, when you fuck up, a good leader will tell you that you fucked up. But on the side, he will also say, but I should have known that you're not as experienced, and I should have had someone helping you, or I should have been around you to actually help you because I see you haven't been helped a lot. That type of stuff.
This is true.
He talks a lot about a leader because he was leading a team, right? And he talks about how, like, in his case, if he led him wrong, he literally made, like, their lives were lost.
Yeah.
But he had, like, an actual reason he had, like, a genuine incentive other than just being a better person. He had an actual incentive to be a better leader. Exactly. So he takes responsibility for everything. So if he loses one life, like, if he loses the life of one member, that's his fault. That's on him because he should have been more cautious with the plan.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I like that thinking a lot. So ever since I read that book, I've literally been like that. Anything that happens around me is my fault, good or bad.
Yeah. I remember I was talking to this one person who was divorced, and I asked this person, do you have any regrets throughout your entire life? You know, meeting this person, being married for X amount of years. And this person was like, no. If it weren't for the what happened in my life, I wouldn't be the person I am today. Everything that culminated to what I am as a person today was a byproduct of all the experience I experienced, good or bad. So that really sunk into me because at that point I realized that I can't really feel sorry for myself anymore. Because what's the point?
Yeah.
Right? Let's say I'm a couple years back, I was a skinny motherfucker. 20 pounds ago, I was skinny. 20 pound 1 year ago, I was skinny as fuck. Right? And I always like looked at myself like, fuck, I'm so damn skinny. Right? Eventually, at one point, I just stopped feeling sorry for myself. Oh, okay, I am skinny. What am I going to do about it?
Yeah.
Right? What am I going to do to get myself appreciative of the way I look? So that at that point, sign up for a membership. Gym membership just continuously worked out. And a year and 20 pounds later, now people are giving me more compliments about my body than me. Granted, the body dysmorphia did kick in over time, but that's besides the point. When you take accountability for your life, there's really no excuse to do anything. Well, there's really no excuse to not do anything.
Yeah.
Right? Let's say you're tired of not making an X amount of income. Okay, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
Do you have to...
Just
it's
like
not
destined.
stagnant.
Like, it's not just like, oh, your whole life, that's it. That's how much you're making. Like, no. Like,
do you have the skill set? Are you worth that level of income? Right? What are you doing to get yourself in a position where that comes to you? Right? What are you doing with your life that makes you get to that level? Right? Instead of taking the time to compare yourself to other people who already took the time and effort to go through all that shit that you're going through right now to get to that position, why not just focus on yourself? Forget that they exist and just constantly build yourself to the point where you are who you want to be. Right? A big philosophy of mine is that I only care about two people's opinions in my life. The 5-year-old version of me and the 80-year-old version of me. I want to make those two motherfuckers proud. Everyone else in my life, I don't really care about their opinions. Like, they can give me their opinions. I'm like, okay, cool. Right? If it's constructive, I'll listen more. Right? But at the end of the day, I want to be at a point where I'm at my deathbed. I'm just thinking about as the man I become. Like, oh, I was in real estate for 2 years. Oh, I was in special warfare for 6 years, and I became a pilot for 10 decades or so. I've lived a very fulfilling life, right? But in that process of going to become the man I am, I want to be. I changed fundamentally speaking, right? Spending 2 years in real estate, I've changed as a person, right? Moving out from my photo, I've changed. Like even me as right now, plan to join special warfare, which is one of the most elite groups of men, fit, disciplined men in the country. I'm gonna change fundamentally as a person, right? I'm at the point where I'm working working out 2 to 3 times a day, just so I keep up the level of fitness, and I'm still nowhere there to the level of just meeting the baseline criteria. Well, I'm meeting the baseline criteria minus swimming, but I want to be competitively. I want to actually like have a good chance of getting in. So that's why I'm like pushing just even harder.
And you're actively actually doing the things. Like in the case of swimming, like you do know how to swim. Well, one of the requirements to get in this is swimming. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna swim.
Yeah.
You're not gonna complain about not knowing how to swim. Oh, I can't do it because I don't know how to swim. It's like, no, dude. Like, I feel sorry for myself for not knowing how to swim. Like, no, just jump in the water.
I told my recruiter, like, look, man, I haven't learned how to swim yet. Just push that part as far back as possible. He's like, okay, cool. Right, and every day I'm jumping in the pool. Granted, there are days where I almost drown, but I'm still going back the next day. Right, the only time I don't go is when I'm like so physically exhausted from doing too much. I just can't physically move. But even some days when my legs are sore as fuck, I still jump in. Right, I'm at the point where working out 3 times a day. First time, running 3 miles, running 2.5 miles, 50 push-ups, 50 sit-ups, 8 pull-ups in the morning. Go to the pool for 90 minutes a day. Hit the gym for another 3 hours. Weightlifting. Maybe I add some boxing if I feel a little bit egotistic. You know what I mean? But I tell people about this. People looking like, you're fucking crazy. My response is always the same. Like, look, I don't want to be a normal person. So I'm not going to be doing the normal things that the general population do. I want to be within the elite group of class of people. So I'm going to do what the elite group of class of people do. And they are making themselves they aren't eating Mickey D's every fucking day, jerking off and watching fucking Kim K on TV, right? They're actually actively out there hustling, trying to make themselves better physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, mentally. And that's what I want to do.
Yeah. I mean, it really goes back to that, like, 20-80 rule. Like, 20% of the people run 80% of the things, that type of stuff. I love the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. I feel like it explains a lot of things. Like, even, like, 20% of the things that you do is, 80% of what you actually do. I mean, think about it in your case, all right? Like, the 20% could include the fitness. Like, in my case, like, 20% of what I do is 80% of, like, how productive I am and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, I agree with that. Like, when I take a break from training, I do tend to be less productive.
Yeah.
Like, I do think so. Or, like, even diet. Like, when I'm eating like crap, I do tend to be, less productive. And, like, that's only 20%. It's not like, oh, I woke up 2 minutes too late. It's like, no, that's not. That's like, whatever. Like, what I'm saying is, it's not about waking up at 2 minutes too late. It's about not waking up 6 hours earlier, for example, right? To kind of, like, rephrase it, because that didn't really make sense. What I'm trying to say is, like, the 20%, it's really, like, very few things in your life that you do that will actually genuinely shift the needle.
Yeah.
Like, there's very few things. It's not like a lot of people. Yeah, it's not like you read, like, you look at what you're doing from, like, hour 0 to hour 23, right? Like, you're looking only, like, don't look at that. Like, all the little things that I'm doing. Okay, I should be drinking coffee an hour later. It's like, no, bro. Like, stop looking at these things. The fact that you're even drinking coffee, maybe coffee's preventing you from doing that thing. Maybe you should stop looking at that and start eating better, right?
Yeah.
Like, it really all shifts down to, like, okay, diet. Having, like, literally, this is, like, where we start with, like, how to start getting productive. Let's just say right now you are super unproductive. You're not really doing anything. Or at least maybe you don't think you're doing anything. Like, how do I start? You just start with cleaning. Maybe what if your room's a mess? Just clean your room, dude. Like every time my desk becomes a mess and I clean it, my productivity just booms. Like it just skyrockets for like the next, I don't even know, for like the next few weeks until my desk goes, bad again. To that point, I just clean it again and boom, I'm productive again. It's literally like that 20%. It's just one little thing.
Yeah, what's happening is, well, two things happen. One, you're decluttering things so you
Yeah,
have
yeah.
more mental space. And secondly, you're building momentum. Like cleaning your, like, for example, making your bed in the morning, right? Do it. Make your bed in the morning every damn day, right? You making the bed in the morning does two things. One, you have a nice bed to go back to when you go to bed tonight. Secondly, you get something done. Like having something done and that's tangible and visible, you get that. I wouldn't say it's dopamine. I would say it's more of a snowball. You start
I was just
you
about to
start
say
pushing
that.
the snowball of getting more things done.
Yeah, you get your bed done. You already pushed a snowball. Like that's it. It's that simple. Actually, I don't know if you read the book because it sounds like you did, but maybe you didn't.
Which book?
It's literally called "Make Your Bed Every Day."
I have not
It's
read that
something
book.
like that. It's made by an admiral. I forgot his name. I think it's something. What was it called? It was something of the lines. It's a very small book. It's of something of the lines of like, make your bed every day. That's like that's like what the title talks about. I don't remember the exact
The
title.
idea is like snowballing
Yeah, and it
into
was written
more
by an
harder
admiral. Yeah, it
tasks.
was written by a U.S. Navy admiral, and he literally talks about exactly what you just
Really?
said. Yeah, he says just make your bed. He obviously it's not like the whole book says make your bed. It's like it's an analogy,
I
right?
gotcha, yeah.
I mean, he does say make your bed, right?
Mhm.
But like it's an analogy for it's a snowball, right? Like you have a lot of things you got to get done in the day, but like you got to get it. The hardest part is to get it started.
Yeah.
So now just make your bed and that's it. You already got the ball rolling. You want to do the next thing already because like, oh, I feel productive. Like I just made my bed. Like okay, I feel good. Let me do the next thing. You finish that. Let me do the next thing. Next thing. Next thing. Next thing. So like that's what he talks about in that book. Primarily.
That's interesting. I've been called a military man a couple of times in my life, just based on like the way I look at my discipline.
Discipline in military is like seen a lot, and I mean, that's what they're known for,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, even when
At
I
least that's what I know
was
him for.
waking up at 4:30 and going to bed at 8, I still wanted to push my discipline more. Like I was like on the path of cutting out drinking completely, like smoking weed, even like smoking weed. That's a big thing. It's a big no-no. So I'm not gonna say much, but I was thinking of this even like whenever I would enjoy some of the indulgences that the majority of people of I'm around do, like even like I have the temptation to say no, right? So I remember there was this one time the temptation to say no unless I'm very burnt out.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember there was this one time, 2 weeks, 1.5 weeks. I tested how far I can work without sleeping. So the test was it was a self-proclaimed test. I was testing how many clients I can close, how many deals I can close, how much work I can get done with only having approximately 4 to 5 hours of sleep on average per night. And I figured out for my body a week and a half, right? But I remember at the very last peak of it, what really cemented me to like stop was I was in the office at like 9 p.m. just finishing up with a client, right? And then my favorite coworker came in, and he's like, "Yo, what the hell are you doing here at 9 p.m.?" I looked at him like, "Hey man, what are you doing here at 9 p.m.?" Right? And then he and I like we were both very hard workers. Like we were like that's how we talked. So very sarcastic, a lot of like jokes, right? And then I told him like, "Look, he's like, let's go out." I'm like, all right, say less. I just had to pick up a check from a client and then we'll go out. Right? That night, I didn't get home till 6 in the morning. Right? It's fucking like I'm gonna be frank, it was like one of the few times when I went to like the club and actually had a enjoyable experience. Fucking phenomenal. Like I bought my SPD belt fucking to the office because I was my plan was after I talked to the clients, I was gonna go work out at like 2 in the morning because I haven't worked out in a week. I'm like, fuck this, I'm gonna work out no matter what, right? And I just left it on the table. The waiter started giving me drinks. It's just everybody just started like the energy. I can't explain, but just the energy of people. When people see you on top of your shit, people are naturally attracted to you, right? Even like the bartender, like some random chick that I just met, is just giving me drinks random. I'm like, I appreciate this, but regret kicks in on the 11th hour. The next day, I was done for the day. Literally, I had to take a whole day to recover. Right. So, great fun time, but it's just alcohol. It's not it's not good. I can I can get really deep into this. It's only temporary fun, right? There's no benefits, right? Yeah, it curbs your inhibitions. It makes you more confident, but in the long term, it's not good for you, right? You see people who are alcoholics, and you have a conversation with them. They're at this point they're doing it because they're escaping the reality, and they themselves don't properly comprehend that. It's the same thing with any kind of addiction: weed, video games, porn, social media. It's just escapism. So it's hard for a lot of people to live life sober, because when you live life sober, you have to deal with the harsh realities of life. And I'll be frank, some of this shit is not fun to look at. Right? It's not fun to look at a crackhead on the middle of the New York street. Gotcha. It's not fun to like just be going home or picking up your daughter and seeing a fucking crackhead in the middle of the street doing stupid shit at 8 a.m. on a Wednesday. That's not fun, but that's the reality of life, right? It's very easy to like smoke some pot and forget about that, or drink some and forget about that. But it's hard to deal with that. It's like, actually, okay, this is what exists in life. How am I going to deal with that? And that's what really separates people who are going to. That's what I believe is going to separate like the successful people and unsuccessful people, because successful people probably understand that life. They understand what reality is, and they're willing to deal with it. Unsuccessful people have a falsified idea of what reality is. They like to believe that life is a bubble, and they can be within this bubble doing like if controlling the bubble in the way that benefits them the most. When in actuality, we're all just little microns in the big ass universe, and none of this really matters. It's not really narcissistic. But yeah, pessimistic.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can argue that like a lot of the things that you do don't affect. I mean, they don't affect them on the macro scale, but maybe on the micro scale, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, in the grand things, nothing matters.
yeah, in the macro scale, it's like, whether whether you got drunk that day or you didn't, won't affect anything in the whole world, of course. But on the micro scale, you're here very temporarily.
Yeah.
So you should be cherishing your days, I believe.
I'm not saying don't go out and drink.
Yeah, I mean, but like when it gets to the point where you're getting drunk like every other day, or you rely on that becomes a problem. I mean, you can argue that like, oh, you couldn't, like a lot of people get addicted to everything. It's like, yeah, I mean, of course, that's like you could get addicted to many things that do bad, but alcohol and drugs are like they're the most easiest ones to talk about.
Yeah.
Or like I don't even want to say easiest, but like it's
the most common.
Yeah, the most common. It's the first thing that comes to mind. But really, that applies to any vice or anything that's like not. I don't want to say not bettering you, because like that's also subjective to some people. Some people actually argue it could make you better, but it's like let's call them vices. Let's just keep them at vices.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like when you're stuck doing vices, like you could live your whole life just literally indulging in every single vice known to mankind, and you can just die, and it's not like it's gonna matter in the end, right? But would you not have wished to like have at least lived a more enjoyable life? I mean, of course, maybe to you is enjoyable. Hell, if that's what you think, then live that life.
That's very subjective.
I mean? It's very subjective. It's actually just yeah. I mean, with me, like I'm known as every single person that I know. Everyone knows me as the most straight edge person in the world.
Straight edge.
Straight edge. Like basically, I don't do any of that. I don't smoke. I don't drink. I don't any of that. Like everyone that I know knows me for that. So when they're drinking and they offer me something and I actually take a sip, they're like in awe. They're like in shock. Mm-hmm. It's like now it's a little different. Now it's more rare. It's not completely zero. Like now it's like
you learn to indulge. You learn to enjoy the moments.
It's not even that. It's like, I mean, that too. But the thing is, I've always been very cold turkey about it, where to the point where it's like I treated it like I take one sip, I'm dead. That's it. I take one sip, I'm ruined. Now, don't get me wrong. Like I've never been drunk before, right? And I don't ever plan to be drunk. I don't ever plan to, because I know, like I already know. Like, tell me one good thing about that.
Sex is better.
All right. But, but like, what I'm saying is, You know what I mean, though.
I know what you mean. In terms of
there's nothing that will long-term benefit me.
long-term
from getting
benefits, there is
drunk.
none. No.
Yeah, or even high. So for me, it's like I don't even consider it. Hell, like even like when I drink something, like honestly, some drinks genuinely taste better with alcohol. That's just the case.
Yeah.
Some genuinely taste better with that, right? And you can still just have a drink. You can still enjoy it. But when it gets to the point where you're getting like, when you're getting drunk, it's not that, oh, this was so good, I drank so many. Unless it's like you don't taste the alcohol. But it's a lot of the people that I know, they only get drunk because they wanted to.
Yeah.
Right? Either that or it's their first time and they don't know their limits. But even then, why are you testing your limits? Just enjoy the drink. Why are you chugging everything and trying to get drunk? Just enjoy it. Like for me, I only drink it to enjoy it. And hell, I don't even drink that much. Like honestly, like
That's
once a
interesting.
month is like really what I do because I don't really go to restaurants that often.
I mean, obviously, that's more than me.
Really?
Yeah,
That's only been recently. But like I said, when I go to a restaurant, like last time we went, like of course I'll have that, because it's like, did I get fucking drunk from one pina colada? Like no, but I enjoyed it.
The way I see it is you're enjoying the moment. Like if the moment has alcohol, you
Yeah,
you can take it or leave
it.
it.
It's a small factor, right? The reason why I'm like talking a lot about this topic is because all my life I've always treated alcohol as like literally a poison, which it is.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm trying to say is like if I touch it, I'll die. I've always been that like against it, right? And
I get you.
it gets to the point where like people that I know, if they drink alcohol, I
Mm-hmm.
kind of feel iffy about even talking to them because I don't want to, I don't want to like get that from them.
Okay.
It gets to that point, and it got to the point where it's kind of too much for me. I feel like it's too much to the point where it's like you take one shot, and I don't want to talk to you that much anymore.
Really?
Yeah, it's because I don't want to like. I'm not dealing with that. Like I don't want to,
But I'll be frank.
because the thing is, back then I made pretty simple, pretty
Mhm.
easy assumptions. I made pretty quick assumptions. Like I'm like, okay, you're drinking. Like I know. I mean, to be fair, like these assumptions aren't fair, though, and I still think that they're not fair. I shouldn't have done it, but they did kind of hold through.
You don't
Like,
want to
everyone
be
that I knew-
within that environment.
Yeah, everyone that I knew that actually took one sip, they're like, I'm only gonna take one. I
Mhm.
automatically doubted it. I'm like, I know you're gonna get drunk. They all ended up getting drunk anyways. But I still don't think I don't make those assumptions anymore. I don't think it's fair to, even though they were enforced from every time I was with somebody. But it's like, I don't know, alcohol and weed. It's like weed, just in general drugs. I've always been like against them, which I still am. But it's not even me being against
Mhm.
alcohol. That's what it is now. Okay, I understand it now.
Yeah.
I'm not against alcohol or drugs.
You're against
I'm
what
a-
it can make a person
I'm against
into.
I'm against the mindset of wanting to indulge so much on them,
Okay.
of
Yeah.
having them as a crutch. That's what it is now. So that's what it is. I've always been against those,
Mhm.
and then at some point I kind of had like an epiphany, and I switched that. I don't want to say hatred, but that like reluctance. Like I was just like kind of pushing myself away from that. I pushed myself from pushing. I changed it from pushing myself away from alcohol to pushing myself away from the mindset of using them as a crutch to escape, to get drunk, that type of stuff.
You know what that shows?
Hmm.
That's maturity.
Yeah, I do agree. It's an interesting form of maturity, right? Because like for me, it's not that, oh, I used to always get drunk, so now I eventually stopped getting drunk. I got away from alcohol. No, for me, it's like I stopped judging the actual lifeless bottle of alcohol for stop blaming that for ruining lives, and I started just blaming the mindset, the bad mindset for ruining lives.
'Cause alcohol is such an interesting thing, right? Because it doesn't. The thing with alcohol, it just makes you when you're drunk, before you're blacked out, you're still who you are. You just stop giving your inhibitions are just lowered, right?
Yeah.
So when you ask, like you're still aware of your consequences, right? So if you ask a drunk person who's about to do something stupid, like what are the consequences, he would know. He would break down the consequences for you. He just doesn't give a shit, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting because my relationship with alcohol was very it's very different than yours. I was probably on the opposite side of the spectrum
Yeah,
until now,
I never touched it.
right? Like when I was the first day I moved into my dorms in college. First night I went to a party and got drunk for the first time. Soon as I was outside of the environment, like my folks who were super conservative, like no drinking, no smoking, no nothing, I just indulged, right? So then it becomes a question of, how does fuck you, Sigmund Freud. How does like your childhood, how does that environment dictate you for the rest of your life?
Mm-hmm.
But then again, as of right now, I've people who drink with me know that I drink a lot, right? Like I've built the reputation of being like of drinking drinking hard. I remember mutual friend of ours, Nate. He was telling me how like this one time we met. I just recently closed a deal. He told me I bought a bottle of Jack Daniels to celebrate with everybody. I'll be frank, I don't remember that, but that sounds like me. Right? Because I had a thing where every time I closed a deal, I would celebrate in some way. Like I either go shopping, have dinner, buy a book, do something to like celebrate. Because it's hard closing deals. But my thing is, if I were to go out, I've done so much stupid shit. I wouldn't say stupid shit. I would say I've done so many irresponsible things that I know how to be responsible now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like you've seen one end of the spectrum, and that's why you're going to the other side of the spectrum.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, in my case, I have seen the one spectrum. I haven't been in it.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I have been around a lot of people who drink a lot. Like, I do think so. I think that also contributed a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just see how they act, and it's never ended well. Like,
Yeah,
for people,
no.
like, I've never seen a single time where people have drank a lot and it ended well. I've never seen a single time.
No.
So that's another thing that kind of feeds into like what I'm talking about. But for example, I've seen conversations that they have like one drink or they just have like a couple of drinks, not to the point to getting drunk, but like just having a couple of drinks. I've seen probably the best conversations from that.
Definitely, yeah.
So, in fact, I might even endorse alcohol to that point because I've seen a lot of great conversations happen with
There
that.
is one issue with that. And I realized this when I was in London.
Mm-hmm.
So I was having a drink with this one person, right? And I was feeling quite tipsy. But after the alcohol wore off, I didn't feel like the energy is gone,
Okay.
right? So when you're drinking, you're constantly like building that energy, right? But at one point, it falls back down. That's why you have to keep getting more and more drunk, or to maintain that pathway.
That does make sense.
Or else you're gonna lose that,
I see
right?
what you mean.
Because alcohol, it's a it's a depressant.
Yeah.
So you naturally feel more sleepy afterwards because
Yeah.
that's what it do. But it's not. Don't use it as a sleeping pill. It's you don't get REM sleep. You get superficial
Yeah.
sleep. It's a whole study on this. But that's the one thing though. But if sometimes you naturally have that conversation with people, right? People are naturally inclined to get people like having deep conversations, right? It's just that if they have the confidence with themselves to open themselves up. Right, like you and I can have these conversations because we both have a mutual understanding and respect for each other. We both understand. I got you. I think this is the last thing to say. We both understand that. Okay, I'm going to respect you as a man, right? And you respect me as a man, and we give each other's opinions, and it's just opinions, right? We may disagree, and that's perfectly fine, but we're not going to get offended because it's just opinions. We live in a society right now where your opinions, people are scared to say their opinions because of the fact that they will get judged on, canceled, in a sense of speaking, where it gets to the point where even being descriptive, people are afraid to be descriptive now, right?
Yeah, I mean, even like the last podcast, like when we mentioned, like people are scared of not being right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like what is right?
Fuck that.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Be wrong. Shit. Like, I always think like the stuff I'm saying right now, it could change. My mindset could change 10 years from now.
100%.
And it definitely will, right? To say that someone's who they are when they're younger or who they are at a certain point of life, yes, we all made bad decisions in life, right? But we shouldn't be super concrete to the point where we cancel people off of one sentence that they said out of context.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you should live your life for a certain amounts of principle and integrity.
Yeah. I mean, if you genuinely believe something, then say it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Even if people are going to disagree, that's life. 8 billion motherfuckers on the planet. You ain't going to like all 8 billion of them. Let's say if you like 1/8, 12.5%. That's still a billion.
Hell, 1%.
That's 800K.
Yeah.
Wait, no. That's 800 mil.
Yeah.
That's a lot of fucking people. You know-
0.1% even. That's still a lot of people. You know
But
what I mean?
you know how much, how many proper relationships your brain can maintain on any given basis? Take a guess.
Remember.
How many people?
3 or 4.
Oh, more than that.
Well, I mean, yeah, probably 8.
More. A
16?
lot more. 60?
Yeah.
More.
I said 16, but 60 as well.
Oh, 60 more.
Even more. I don't know. 128,
No, less. That's much less.
80.
75.
Oh.
You can properly maintain 75 relationships before your brain can comprehend more
lot.
people.
Hell, even 5's a lot if you think about it. So to have 75, that's insane.
Yeah. Well, on that note, we'll see you next time on Shanghai No Way.